Okay. We're live here on the World Hates Us Network with Zachary King, a former high wizard. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And and personally, I don't know what a high wizard is. Is there what is a high wizard? What should we know about high wizards?
High wizards, there's generally between 2 and 5 in the world, but the number could be as low as 1 or as high as 10. It just depends on what Satan needs and if any of them have died or, got fired or quit. It is the highest magical person in the world. So, are you familiar with the Catholic Church?
Yes, I am Catholic.
Okay. In the hierarchy of the Catholic Church, a high priest would be like a sacristan or a lectern. The high wizard would be like a cardinal. But it's a cardinal that can never be pope. That's as high up as you can go. You can't be the CEO and you can't be on the board of directors. But you are a position that they call upon. Let's say they take a vote and it's a tie. You bring the high wizard in for a tiebreaker. And neither side can say anything against him. He just wants to know, what are the facts on this side? What are the facts on that side? And then he makes a decision. And they have to abide by that.
Wow. So like a cardinal, but a lot smaller of a group.
I don't know. How big is the Catholic Church?
Yeah. Well, I only know this last election when I think there was 133 cardinals at the election for Pope Leo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have in 1989 we had 1.1 million members worldwide.
Yeah.
And I hear people in Catholic Answers say that most satanic groups are really tiny, just a few kids going out to the cemetery and playing with a Ouija board. And I mean, to me, that means he doesn't watch the news. In the Satanic Temple, I think like 3 years ago, when they had their first Satan Con in Arizona, they advertised that they had 300,000 members worldwide. Then they had Satan Con the following year. And in 1 year, it more than doubled. It went up to 700,000 members. That was 2 years ago. How many members do you think they got now?
Right. Wow. Okay. So it sounds like it's more widespread than the normal person presumes.
Right. And then they also do things like, let's say you wanted a magic spell, but you're rich, which helps you a lot. So you would bring an offer to the Illuminati and tell them, I want this magic spell done, and I have $10 million to do it. So they would negotiate with you. They might say, no, it doesn't take that much money, or they might ask for more money. But they'll tell you what you'll get with that package. Like, you're asking for this one thing. What about if we did these other 5 things, but charged you $5 million more? Yeah, you're out $15 million. But this is almost a guaranteed thing to work. Would you be interested in that? And they negotiate giant deals. They negotiated, the rumor was George Soros paid $1 billion in the 1980s so that all future TV shows would have gay characters. $1 billion. I did the spell. I did the spell. I didn't think that would ever work. Now, this was the 1980s. Being gay was not a popular thing. You were not in the in crowd if you said you were gay. It's like that was like a guaranteed death sentence. Your church would kick you out. Your job would fire you. Schools would shun you. Any athletic program, they didn't want you. because you're gay and you're going to be in the locker room with a bunch of men. Nobody wants that. I mean, it's not like it is today where they encourage you to be gay. But back then, it wasn't. And I thought, I can do this spell, but it's never going to work. It's never going to happen. And what they wanted was, they wanted there to be a gay character, not just a gay character on every show, but they wanted him to be the favorite character, the funniest, the most wittiest, the most handsome, the prettiest. Everybody loves them. They'll win all the Emmys. Everybody cares the most about these gay characters. And I'm like, I'm wasting my time, but yeah, I'll do it. It's like, you're wasting $1 billion. But tell me a show now that doesn't have a gay character.
Right. So, when I first heard your story and I heard some of these things, I thought, well, what did that hierarchy look like? Were you collaborating with guys like, what's his name? Anton LaVey? Was that somebody?
Anton LaVey is an atheist, or was an atheist. He's not an atheist anymore now that he's dead. He knows there's a God and a Satan. But when he had the Church of Satan, or the first Church of Satan, he didn't believe in God or Satan. And he pretty much did it to make himself rich if he could, and have sex, drugs, and rock and roll, pretty much. He was just in it for the lark of it, the fun of it.
Right. So the more serious figures are people that are not necessarily publicized.
Most people, when they get interested in Satanism, the first thing they do is run out and buy a copy of the Satanic Bible. And that is by Anton LaVey. And if you read it, if you see him speak, he tries to come across as this super evil dude. But if you really sit down and chat with him, he's in it for the sex and the drugs. And he doesn't really take what he does seriously. It's not any big deal. They do satanic black masses, but there's a naked woman there. They bang a gong when they mention the name of Satan or Lucifer. And they don't take any of it seriously. But if you read his book, it was brilliantly done. There's a lot of intelligence poured onto those pages. And I don't think it's his. I think he had demonic influence to get it. In that book, now this is a true statement, but this is from the book. But this is a Catholic belief as well. In that book, it says you do not have to sacrifice a child or a cat or a dog. You can masturbate and ejaculate and commit the same crime. You're taking life by ejaculating and it not going inside of a woman. You're not making a woman pregnant with it. You're just wasting the sperm.
Wow.
That's a very true statement.
Yeah. And that sounds concerning, right? Because masturbation is something that's so like normal.
Right. There are priests right now that if you go to confess that sin, they'll tell you that's no longer a sin. And it's still a mortal sin.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. My awareness of mortal sin and the seriousness of it, those things are new to me, but they're real. And for me, I guess, I never thought that it would be possible to not have those mortal sins in your life, but through the sacraments, I have found some graces and some strength, and I've developed a different relationship with the sin. Now, I'm still new to it, but I guess what I would ask you is, with these things that seem normal in society, how should we look at them, and what should our response be once we know the truth about those things?
I think that one of the issues is that Satan has convinced us all to look at sins through his glasses and not through God's. So he'll tell you things like masturbation is not so bad. Everybody does it. You know, your mom and dad do it. All your friends do it. Everybody does it. You can look at porn and see that everybody there does it. It's normal. And he's convinced psychiatrists to tell people it's normal, doctors to tell people it's normal, teachers to tell people it's normal, and even your priest to say that it's normal. You know Satan has infiltrated when the Catholic priest is telling you mortal sins are normal and it's okay to do them. So I think that, you know, are you familiar with Christine Watkins' book, The Warning?
No.
Okay. And The Warning is also called the, what is it? It's the, do you remember?
Which one?
The Warning.
Oh, the illumination of conscience?
The illumination of conscience. Where at that moment, all of life stops. Like airplanes stop in the air, birds stop flying, everything stops, and suddenly you see yourself through God's eyes. You see yourself as God would see you if you died right now. And you see if you would go to heaven, hell, or purgatory. Now, you know, at least if you're seeing yourself in purgatory, you know you're going to heaven. If you see yourself in heaven, praise God, you made it that far. You were great with your sins, you ended up in heaven. But think about those poor people that see themselves in hell. And they say that a lot of people die of heart attacks at that moment. You know, seeing themselves in hell, and they'll just kill over dead, which is sad for them because that's where they're going. But if you could see yourself, if you're about to do a sin, my friend Jacinta told me this great trick. She said, pray to your guardian angel that every time you're tempted to do a sin, he shows you the demon drooling over you about to sin. Because he knows if you sin and then you die, you're going to hell to be tortured by him forever. And my guardian angel has started showing me those things. And I don't sin anywhere near as much as I used to. Right. I mean, my mind starts to wander to a sin, and all of a sudden I see this drooling demon in my head, and I'm like, ooh, that's not good. I can't sin. I can't do that. Right. So I think that if we saw each other through God's eyes or through God's glasses instead of Satan's glasses, with Satan's glasses, all it shows is sin and how much fun it is. You know, if sin wasn't fun, we wouldn't do it. At least that's what we think. And until you do it, and then, you know, Satan gives you guilt.
Right. So speaking about these spiritual powers and the infiltration even within the Catholic Church, why would somebody like you or any person that's aware of these things, why would you stay in the church? Why remain Catholic if there's these infiltrations?
Well, there's infiltrations in every church. Every church is run by men, and men are imperfect. But the Catholic Church, if you listen to the dogma of the Catholic Church, and if you don't listen to the dogma of the Catholic Church, you're not going to heaven. You know, there's no salvation outside the church. So if you're not happy here, there's nowhere to go. You know, there's 23 different types of Catholicism, but if you're not happy within the Catholic, you know, then there's nowhere else for you to go. You'll just sit on the edge of your yard and wait for Christ to come back. But you got to not sin while you're out there because you want to be in a state of grace.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I watched this video of yours when you were talking about Saint Michael being 100 feet tall. And
Yes.
and this was the first time I ever heard it, but it was interesting to me because I went on a 3-day retreat, and when I arrived, they call it the mountain. It's up north, and and I arrived, and I remember when I stepped on the premises, I looked up, and that's what I seen. And and I didn't see him in full detail, and I didn't even know it was him. I didn't make the connection until I heard you say that. But this angel must have been 100 feet tall. Like it was massive. And so when I heard you say that, I was like, oh wow, this memory that I have, this probably was Saint Michael. And the way I imagined him too was like an angel that was like a warrior, you know. So that was interesting. How did you come to that realization?
That it was Saint Michael?
Yeah.
Did you hear the whole story?
No, it was like a short clip on YouTube.
Okay. I had gone to this, there was an exorcism happening in the ghetto in Detroit in like a Section 8 housing. The building is 2 stories high and it's fairly large. And then it has this about an 18-foot fence all the way around it. And it's got barbed wire at the top of it. But then it has 2 or 3 areas for vehicles to enter. And it's gated, but the gates aren't there. So it's just open. So it's like, who would climb over the barbed wire and risk shredding themselves when they could just walk in the front door that's wide open?
Mm-hmm.
It probably used to have gates on it. So we pulled our van in there, parked in the parking lot. We leave the keys in the car. This guy told us, oh, go ahead and leave the keys in the car. You know, and we're like, we're in the ghetto. He goes, no one's going to steal our vehicle. Look at us. No one would dare do anything against us. I'm dressed as the High Wizard. If you go to YouTube and look up the artist Pink and her song Like a Pill official video, she has a High Wizard that appears 4 times in her video. And in case you're thinking, well, he was probably known by the director or the producer, he doesn't really know Pink personally. There's another photo of Pink on the red carpet with her arms around the High Wizard, and the High Wizard got his arm around her too. There's also pictures of her at a red carpet event. Honey, do you remember who that's by? Is that VH1? I think it was VH1 and Vogue magazine. And they did a photo shoot, and they had an award ceremony, and Pink was there, and her date was the High Wizard. So you get the ample opportunity to spot the High Wizard there. So I'm dressed like that. My entourage is just dressed normally. There's like 7 of us, and we're going to try and rescue our friend from being exorcised. We can see him through the window. We can see the priest in there. There's another man in there, and they're holding some weird gold thing. The priest is holding it. It's got like this big starburst on it, and a long stem and a base. And I had no idea what that was back then. Now I know that's a monstrance, and it usually has the pigs in it with Jesus. So he's conducting whatever he's doing in there. We're trying to get the door open. So I just figured just be the bold thing, just walk up and open the door. But when I walked up to the door, I couldn't get to it. There's like an invisible barrier or a wall there, and I can't step through it. I'm trying magic. I can't get it to get rid of. So one of my guys runs down to the next set of stairs, runs up, comes all the way down to ours, and tries to come down the stairs. He comes down to the landing, turns, goes to walk down the last 5 steps or 4, and he can't do it. There's something blocking his way. And I said, okay, this is the best idea I got. Go back up. Lower yourself down from the handrail. Make sure it's sturdy. Make sure it's not going to fall. You're not going to get hurt. But lower yourself down and drop down right in front of the door. So he does that. He lowers himself down, and I said, "You only got like a 4-foot drop. Just go ahead and go." So he drops, and he disappears. Like he's gone. And we're all like looking around. We don't see him anywhere. We tried throwing rocks at the window. They would hit the ground before they hit the window. We tried to throw it at an angle and hit the door. Still hit something and bounce off. So, and we're wondering this whole time where this guy disappeared to, where he went.
Right.
So there's an alcove about 10 feet away from this guy's apartment. And I go in there. When I walked there first, you could see there's a phone booth or a phone up on the wall, a soda machine, a snack machine, and a chair. I said, I'm going to go sit in that chair and rest. You guys try and figure that out. I'm going to sit here and sweat for a little bit because it's hot out here. So when I go back to the alcove, the phone is missing the receiver and the part where the change goes into it. The soda machine is missing it. The front of it is gone. There's no soda cans left in it. And the place where the money goes is gone. The snack machine, the glass is missing. All the snacks are gone. And so is the place where the money goes. And the chair is a metal frame and a wooden plank stapled to something. And the pad from it is missing. So I'm like, all right, so definitely I'm in the ghetto. So I sit down, and suddenly 6 of my guys go running past the alcove. One guy comes back and says, "Run like hell," and takes off running. And I get up and I walk out and I look to the right, which is the way they're going, and they're getting pretty far away. And I look to the left to see what they were looking at. And when I look to the left, I'm looking down the sidewalk where the stairs are and where this guy's apartment is. I don't see anything. There's nothing there.
Right.
And then I happen to glance out into the parking lot, and there's this 100-foot tall creature with long hair, armor, a helmet that looks like a short broom on top of it. He's got armor like up on his upper arms and on his forearms and on his wrists, and then armor plates on his thighs and on his shins. He's wearing sandals, and his sword is on fire.
Wow.
I grabbed my hat and took off running, and I'd say 30 seconds later, I caught up to my boys. We're about to get to the van, and this guy says, "Let's head to the van." And another guy yells, "Haven't you seen the movies? The people that jump in the car die first." So we all spread out. We hit the Detroit ghetto scene and just split up. Figured, it'll be harder for him to find all of us if we're split up.
Right.
So we're in the neighborhood, and I'm just walking, waiting for my crew to come pick me up in the van. And these people would come up behind me, and I would turn around to see if it's my guys. And these people would see me and stop. And they would sometimes just turn around and go back the way they came, or they'd cross the street and start walking the same direction, but over there. If people were coming at me and they happened to look up and see me, they would cross the street. Then eventually, I've been out there for about 45 minutes, and this guy comes up to me, walks right up to me. He's a gangbanger. He's wearing his colors. He's got covered in tattoos and all gold teeth and gold chains. And he says, "Are you hungry and thirsty?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "Come on back to my house. My mom will feed you." And he's got like a whole gang with him. And I'm looking at them, and they're looking at me. And so I turn around, and I walk with them to his house. And when we get there, we get out to the front porch. And he says, "This is my mama's house. My mom's a Christian woman. She's going to know what you are. She's not going to like it, but she won't turn away nobody hungry."
Wow.
So I took off my hat so I could be a gentleman, And I walked in. Sure enough, his mother looked me up and down. She was like, And his mama, he's hungry and thirsty. She was, okay, you boys sit at the table. I'll bring the food out. I ain't going to turn nobody away. But when you're done eating, you got to leave. I was like, yes, ma'am. So I sit down. I have fried chicken, all the trimmings, and it was nice. She was a wonderful cook. Had Dr. Pepper. It's my favorite drink.
Yeah.
And then when I was done, I noticed they had like statues. A lot of Mary, I guess they were Mary. It was a female. It was a statue. And then they had like icons on the wall. And crucifixes like on every wall.
Yeah.
And, looking back on it, she was Catholic, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just identified all that with she was Christian. Right. And he had said she was Christian. So I'm done eating. I thanked her very much for the food and the drink, and I appreciated her. And she told me that she'd prayed for me. And I was like, thank you. I was being polite because I didn't care if she prayed or not. Yeah. And she didn't say again, now you got to go. She just had that look about her like, I need to leave. And I turned around, I walked out the door, and her son came with me. And I said I was grateful for everything he did for me. I said, I pulled out a gold coin, and I said, you want to give this to your mama? He goes, oh man, she won't, no, she won't take that. She wouldn't, no. She knows what it is. She won't take it. I was like, okay, all right. So my van shows up, and we get into the van, and this guy in the back says, and the guy that disappeared was there. And I was like, where'd you come from? Where'd you go?
Yeah.
And he said, when I disappeared, I reappeared on the roof of the building. And there's no ladder from up there to get down. I said, how'd you get down? He said, I took a running jump off the roof and landed on one of the stairs. He said, but I had to clear this big section of stuff. So he said, I had to clear about 6 feet and then landed on the stairs. And then I climbed down the stairs and got down to the parking lot. He had seen the thing from the roof, but didn't know what it was. He thought it was a statue. And then when he jumped down to the stairs, it was gone. So he didn't see it fully. But one of the guys in the van said it was St. Michael. And I'm like, St. Michael who? And he was from the Bible, St. Michael, the archangel.
Wow.
And I was like, how do you know that? He goes, what do you mean, how do I know that? Didn't your parents tell you stories about St. Michael growing up? No. He goes, oh, we heard stories like almost every night. Different stories, different things he did, how he protects children and how he takes care of people and protects soldiers and police. And, he's a mighty dude. I was like, whatever, right? St. Michael, okay. I'll write that up in the report. But, I only knew it was St. Michael because I was told it was St. Michael.
Yeah. And in hindsight, you feel like your experiences following that confirmed that?
Once I became Catholic,
yeah,
then that confirmed that.
Were these moments? I assume that this wasn't the only moment of you coming face to face with God's kingdom. What were those moments? Things that were leading up to your conversion, or was your conversion more abrupt?
One of my gifts when I was a Satanist was that I could see demons and angels. And I thought back then that the demons were there to keep me safe and the angels were there to do me harm. It wasn't until I became Catholic that I realized that the angels were there to keep me safe and the demons were there to keep me damned. When I was a high wizard, I was reading a book. I was at an event where I was going to go out on stage, perform, do a dance with a famous rock band, and they were going to play a famous satanic song. I was going to do a dance on stage and then launch from that into a group of magic spells for their entertainment, but show them things they normally couldn't see, things only a high wizard could do. Before that event, I'm reading the book The Exorcist by William Blatty. And I'm sitting on a couch like this. The book is in front of me, levitating off the floor, and the pages flip when I do this. When I just move my finger, and then the page flips, and then I read the 2 pages, and I do like this, and there's a demon holding it up and changing the pages. Wow. There's a guy comes in to tell me that it's my turn. It's time for me to get on stage. And he stands there and stares at this for a few minutes, watching me read this book that is levitating in the air.
Right.
And then I said, I've got to go on stage now. Keep track of my place. I'll be back to finish reading it. And I got up to walk away, and the book just levitated there in the air. I don't know if it continued after I left the room, but until I left, it was levitating. And, so then I would go out, and I would think that I had total control over these demons. Like at this particular event, I did a magic spell, and then I did a scene where I started circling on the stage, a giant arcing circle. Now my feet are not moving, and my legs aren't moving. I'm just sliding on the stage all the way around in this giant circle. And then when I went around again, I was about a foot off the stage, all the way around in this big circle. Then I go up about 3 feet, again in the big circle. 10 feet, again in the big circle. 50 feet, 100 feet. I'm a little more than 100 feet off the ground. And I'm at the point where that if I fell, I would die. At one point I knew if I fell, I'm breaking a leg. If I fall at this height, I'm probably going to break both legs. If I fall at this height, I'm probably going to break my back. And then I was so high up, I thought, I'd die if I fell now. And then I had the demon, now let's go back. Let's go back down the same way we came up. Very slow, giant circles until I'm back on the ground. So we did that. There's not a whole lot of magic people that can do that stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you, I was in New York. This would have been back in the 90s. And David Blaine came into the bar I was in, the pub. And he walked up to the bartender, and the bartender pointed back to our group. And so he walked back and he says, who wants to see a magic spell? And I thought, I do magic in real life, so sure, show me something I can't do. Yeah. He goes, okay. So he takes a deck of cards and hands it to us, has us sift through the cards, find one card, and pull it out. So, and he goes, and cover it up. Don't let me see what it is. So I've got one hand on it, and I pull this card out. And it's like the 10 of diamonds or something like that. Or kings, or I don't even know. I don't know cards. So I pull it out, and I look at it, and I put it back in the deck. There's no way he could have seen what card that was. Both my hands were blocking it. I put it back, and then I reshuffle them. I hand them back to him. He takes them and puts them in this hat. And then he takes lighter fluid and sprays it all over the cards and drops a match in it. So it's on fire. And the fire is real. You can walk up and put your hands up there. It's warm. This is a real fire. He then walks over to the bartender and asks for a pitcher of water, comes back, pours the pitcher of water in and puts the fire out. Takes the pitcher back, comes back over here, and he's searching through the cards, looking for my card. And he searches for like 3 minutes. And he's like, oh, no, that's not it. Is this it? No, that's not it. And he keeps searching. And finally he goes, I don't see your card. I'm like, shocking. And he says, try your pocket. Now, the people that are here, it's me, my handler, and a friend. None of us have ever met David Blaine before. And my friends are still standing to my right and to my left in front of me. They've never stood right by me for the spell. David Blaine's on the other side of the table. There's nobody else over here on this side of the store.
Right.
So I stick my hand in my pocket because I think, well, let's see what kind of impossible stunt this is. And there's a playing card in my pocket that's wet. And I pull it out, and it's the card he had me hold. It's wet, and it's burned. It's charred. And the corners are folded up from being melted by the flame. And I hand it back to him. I said, this is my card. And he goes, yeah. You wanted to see real magic? There's real magic. How did I do that if magic wasn't real?
Mm-hmm.
I put the question to you. How did he do that if magic isn't real?
I think it is real.
Nobody touched me. I wouldn't have put it back in my own pocket. I put it back in the deck, back in the hat.
Right.
I had a friend who's a caregiver. He told me he was worth $10,000, and he would pull it out and give me $10,000 cash if I could prove magic was real. I said, okay, come on over, I'll prove it. So he came over to my house. I'm guessing he was expecting me to do a magic spell. But what I did instead is that I showed him the 33 verses in the Bible where God tells you not to do magic things. Now, if you could not tell a lie, thou shalt not lie would not be in the Bible. If you couldn't steal or you couldn't kill, then those two would not be in the 10 Commandments. And if you couldn't do magic, God wouldn't tell you not to. But he tells you not to lie once, and not to kill once, and not to steal once. He tells you not to do magical things 33 times. So it seems like that should be mildly important and a possibility that it can be done. I'm still waiting for my $10,000.
Yeah. So how you were born and raised in the United States, right?
Yeah,
Florida. And growing up, I mean, you were just a normal kid growing up.
As normal as I can be for growing up in Florida.
Yeah.
We're a special breed down there.
Yeah. And how does this normal kid from Florida end up being a wizard?
At 10 years old, I had seen like every movie you could see on TV that had magic. I'd also watched Doug Henning do illusions on TV. And I just had a burning desire for magic to work. You know, I was a comic book geek, and Doctor Strange had a great costume and could do all this magic and crazy stuff. And I wanted this to be real. And I went to my Baptist preacher and my parents, and I asked them separately, is magic real? Is this something I can really do? Something in real life I can really do? And they said, no, magic was fake and false. It's just in movies and books and comic books. It's not real. How did my Baptist preacher not see the 33 verses in the Bible that tell you not to do magical things? I don't know. And my dad had been Baptist his whole life, and I guess hadn't seen those verses either. Yeah. So I set out to verify that yes, indeed, magic is real, or no, it's not. Because I know that adults are sometimes wrong, or sometimes they lie to you. So they think they're protecting you, so they lie to you.
Right.
And I thought, what if they're wrong or lying this time, and I verify that magic works? Now, if I verify it works, I'm going to do it every day for the rest of my life. If I find out it's not, then I'll never do it again. I'm not going to waste my time.
Right.
So I tried a magic spell for money, And the next day I went out and I found a can of tennis balls with a $5 bill in it. Now, this is 1976. Comic books are 15 to 20 cents. Candy bars are 15 to 20 cents. And penny candy is a penny. Now, to put that in perspective, those same pieces of candy that I paid a penny for, so I could buy 100 pieces of candy if my dad paid the tax. It costs 50 cents now. And to put that in perspective, when my dad was a kid, that penny piece of candy that I paid 1 cent for one piece of candy, he paid 1 cent for 10 pieces of candy.
Mm-hmm.
And now those candy pieces are 50 cents each.
Right.
So I'm figuring $5, I could get 500 pieces of candy if my dad would pay the 20 cents for the tax.
Yeah.
But this could have been a coincidence. Somebody had to find it. It just happened to be me. So the next Friday, I did the spell again. And I went out the next day and I found a $10 bill on the side of the road. All right, 8 days, $15. I can nickel and dime my way up to being a millionaire, but this still could have been a coincidence. So I'm going to try it one more time, but I'm going to add a little twist to it. See, when we were at school in the 5th grade, on the very first day of the 5th grade, this kid came up to me and he said, "Meet me in the bathroom at the first break." Well, I know the first break's at 10:20. We didn't have the internet back then. There was no warnings about, hey, if somebody says, "Meet me in the bathroom," don't go. You know, we didn't know about, the things that could happen to you in the bathroom. So I go in there. These are brand new buildings, brand new bathrooms, and they're huge. There's about 49 kids other than me in the bathroom, boys and girls in the same bathroom. And we're all in there to see what's going to happen. So this kid explains, if you turn out the light and chant a phrase a certain number of times, the spirit of a burn victim will show up in the mirror.
Wow.
But we're kind of like buzzing, like, all right, that seems cool, but why would it work? He goes, dude, it's just a game. You just do a simple game, and if you do it right, the spirit of a burn victim shows up. Now, to put this game in perspective for you, it's really a spell. And to make a spell work, you need intention, repetition, and demonic presence. So the kids that say they tried Harry Potter spells over and over again and they never worked, well, praise God, that means there wasn't a demon present. Because other kids have said that they have worked every time. And that's kind of scary because that means they had a demon present. So we do this chant. We turn out the lights. Now, some of the kids are still scared of the dark at 10 years old. So there's a little apprehension going on in the bathroom. They get everybody calmed down. Then we chant this phrase together as a group a certain number of times. And the name of the game is I Hate You, Bloody Mary. And also called the Bloody Mary game. All of a sudden, this scary face appears in the mirror. Looks like a burn victim. And 49 kids run screaming out of the bathroom. Mm-hmm. One child, he's an idiot. I can say he's an idiot because it's me, stayed in the bathroom thinking this is the coolest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. I said this phrase a certain number of times. I stayed in the bathroom. I made this thing appear, and it knows I made it appear. I'm powerful. Now, sometimes at 10 years old, you're not the sharpest tack in the box. As I like to say, I'm not the sharpest marble. Yeah. So when you've tapped into this demon in the mirror, you're not tapping into some faraway country 3,000 miles away, like some castle in Ireland. You're not even tapping into the wall behind the mirror. If you're seeing something in the mirror, it's standing next to you. But I wasn't smart enough to pick up on that. I just assumed wherever it is, I've tapped into this.
Yeah.
And then we had notes sent home saying that if we were caught playing this game at school, that we'd be suspended for 3 days. And I didn't want to spend 3 glorious days with my dad, after I had told him, no, I wasn't playing the game. So instead of getting caught at school, I started playing the game at home, because what could the harm be in that? And every time I played it, I saw this scary face. And then one day I decided, I wonder if this is a power I can harness. Can I use this to my advantage? So that's when I had done the spell twice for money, and then I decided I'd try it a third time in my bathroom at home. And this time I would do the spell halfway, then I'd do the Bloody Mary chant, and when the face showed up, I would show it that I was doing a spell for money, and then I would finish out my spell. And the next day, I'm running through a large unpaved parking lot, and I see something bright and shiny off in the distance. So I ran off to see what that was. When I got there, there's nothing bright and shiny there. I'm just looking around, I don't see anything. But what I do see looks like Monopoly money rolled up tight in rubber bands. So I put that in my pocket and I went back to playing. And then at the end of the night, everybody's taken their baths, everybody's changed clothes, we're all in pajamas. I'm in my room, the lights are out, I'm laying in bed, I've got a sheet up over my head and a flashlight in my mouth, and I'm unraveling the rubber bands. They look like Monopoly money because I'd never seen a $100 bill.
Right.
And then when I unraveled everything, I had $1,100 bill. I had $1,000. I had 10 $100 bills. And it was like winning Powerball. You know, we didn't have Powerball back then, but it was like winning some big contest because, you know, everything I wanted was pretty much dirt cheap. You know, if you think about it, with $1,000, I could buy 100,000 pieces of candy. You know, I could buy pretty much anything I wanted. The value of $1 back then was like $7 right now. So my $1,000 was worth $7,000. And, you know, it was a fantastic time for Zach. And then it was soon after that, when I was 11 years old, I became the victim of a sexual assault at school, at the hands of a female teacher. And she had told me that it was my idea, I wanted to do it, and that if I told anybody about it, that I would be expelled from school, my parents would disown me, that I would go to prison. And then she made all this sound like it would all happen in the same year. When I got released from prison, I couldn't move back home, so I'd have to get a job, support myself, buy all my own groceries, pay for my utilities, and pay my own rent. I'm 12 years old. So, you know, this is looking impossible. Right. You know, or 11 years old, so this is looking impossible. So, and I was almost suicidal for the entire year because I couldn't clean myself enough. The first night it happened, I took a bath in scalding hot water, just trying to clean myself. And I did that every night for a long time. Then I thought about bathing myself in bleach, but I had had a conversation with my dad about that, just kind of lighthearted, mentioning him doing it. And he said that it's bad for your skin. You could end up really doing some damage. So I didn't want to do that. Then I thought about diluting it with water and drinking it to clean myself from the inside out. But it says on the back of the container, may be fatal if swallowed. So I was like, all right, I don't want to kill myself. And the only thing that gave me comfort and solace was magic. Because when I did magic, I was in charge. I could do whatever I wanted. I could ask for anything I wanted, and I would get it. That was the only place where I was in control. Wow. But everything else, I was on the bottom rung. I was under the bottom level. You know, I was not going to be the first picked on the softball team or the kickball team or the football team. I was like last one picked for everything except magic. Whatever I was controlling in magic did what I wanted them to do. So then at 12 years old, we used to play D&D when I was 10. There was a large group of us. Most of us kids from my church, and then kids from high school. And this guy come over and he used to play with us all the time. And then he disappeared. He stopped going to church, stopped going to school. We thought he moved away. And he came back and he told us that he didn't move away. He was just homeschooled and he went to church at home and he was trained on some stuff and he's been here this whole time. And I was kind of mad because he was like a good friend when I was 10 years old. Where did you go? Why would you ignore me for 2 years?
Yeah.
And he apologized and said he just has a whole new circle of friends and he likes hanging out with them. Why don't I come over and check them out? He said, these are guys that play D&D every weekend and they believe magic is real. Now I agree to go because I know magic is real. I'm going to see what these guys are about. So I go to these guys, and this is like at my house, we have a 26-inch console TV. Now, how old are you?
I'm 33.
So you may not remember the console TV. It's a TV that's about 4 feet thick, 2 or 3 feet wide, and it's inside a giant wooden box.
I've seen one before, yeah.
And it has a rotary dial on it. And even when you turn it off, about 2 feet extended from the screen is this green crackling screen. You can stick your hand out and touch. Thank you. And it takes about 6 minutes for that TV to totally turn off. I imagine touching that, I might have given myself cancer. But I don't really know for certain. But it was a very odd thing. But we also had a 13-inch black and white TV in mine and my brother's room. So, but over there they had a 50-inch projection screen TV. I had an Atari at my house, and I could hook up the Atari to the 13-inch black and white TV. But my dad wouldn't let me hook it up to the big one. But over there, they had the Atari hooked up to the 50-inch. And, my mom, during the summer, would give us 3 meals a day and a snack if she was in a good mood. But over there, I could live on potato chips and candy bars and soda.
Right.
Anytime I want, I didn't even have to ask. Just go get it. They had a pantry filled with cases of candy bars. But I just had to go over and open it up and take what I wanted. First time I did it, I was taking like 5 bars. And this woman comes over, she says, oh, you don't have to do that. Just take one at a time. As you get hungry for it, come over. I said, what if I'm constantly hungry for it? She goes, constantly get them. But you don't have to get 5 at a time. Just get them as you want them. You don't have to ask. Just go. Right. So I'm able to get chips, candy bars. At my house, we had a McDonald's in our town. And we probably got McDonald's maybe 3 times in my 18 years. But over there, if I wanted McDonald's every day, I could have it. We had a Burger King across the street. And again, me and my parents got Burger King, I think, once. And over there, I could get Burger King every night if I wanted. Me and my parents never got a restaurant pizza. We got store-bought pizzas, and we had, I think, under 5 in my 18 years of life. But over at this place, we had a Domino's that was new, and then we also had other private pizza places, and they would go there and buy us pizza. And this was anytime we wanted it. They always had money. They always gave us whatever we wanted to do. And then they told me that what happened to me when I was 11 was horrible. And that shouldn't have happened to anybody. But now's the chance I can get my power back. I can do that anytime I want. And no one can tell me no. And I can tell anybody else no that if I don't want to do it. And they'd make me a movie star. And they showed me, well, let me show you some videos and some pictures. So they showed me pictures of child pornography.
Wow.
And then they showed me videos. They started me off with, because we could watch G-rated or PG-rated movies. We should watch a PG-rated movie that had been vetted by my dad first. But over there were R-rated movies. I didn't know there were R-rated movies. They didn't advertise R-rated movies on television back then. So
Right.
we couldn't watch. We found out there was R-rated movies. Then we found out there were X-rated movies. Then I found out there were triple X-rated movies. And then I found out there were triple X-rated movies with kids in it my age. Now imagine, who's your favorite actor right now?
Denzel Washington.
All right, good choice. Imagine you're at a theater watching one of Denzel Washington's movies, and Denzel's sitting in the chair next to you.
Mm-hmm.
And every time there's like a certain scene comes up, he tells you the backstory of that scene, or what funny incident happened on stage,
Right.
or what funny thing the director said, or how great this was. Watch when I say this. This is my favorite line of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you think that is like the best experience ever?
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a house on the couch with about 12 kids that are all starring in the movie that I'm watching. So I'm watching them have sex on screen, and then I turn and look, and the girl from that scene is sitting right next to me. And I'm thinking this is the coolest thing ever. Then they take me to the stack of mail, and like the top letter is from Japan. And they open it up and they read it. And it talks about this particular movie that we're watching now. And that they really liked the third scene and the fifth scene. And they named the actor and actress that are in the scene. And the actor and actress raised their hands. This is them. And they would like to see more of this person with this other person. And this was been sent like 3 years before. And they said, you be in these movies, we can make you a movie star. Now, they never said kiddie porn, child pornography. They never mentioned. Now, when we got these letters in the mail, it would be like written on children's notebook paper and crayon. So we're thinking it's children writing to us. We didn't know that it would be adult pedophiles watching us. That never occurred to anybody. We didn't even know the word pedophile back then.
Right.
So they sent me to this house, somewhat near my house, that had 3 sisters in it. And these 3 sisters had been in child pornography since they were 3 years old. One of them was 8, one was 11, and one was 14. So I come in with a note, I hand it to them, they open it up, they read it, they pass it among themselves, and then they invite me into the house. And I'd already been told, these girls are going to train you. So I was with the 8-year-old first for a few weeks. Then I went to the 11-year-old, and I was with her for 2 or 3 weeks. And then I went to the older girl, and I was with her for about a week. And when I was with the 11-year-old, one day the back door opened up, and I froze, because that's how the mom comes into the house, is through the back door. And I was terrified. I didn't know mom knows what's going on. I imagine she doesn't. She's like any regular mom. She's going to open the door, see us, and beat me to death with a baseball bat. And she knocks on the door, and her daughter says, come in. And my heart is beyond my stomach. It's probably in my bowels trying to escape. And she says, she smiles real big. She goes, how's it going in here? And the daughter's like, it's fine. He's learned almost everything from my youngest sister. Only a couple more days and he'll graduate to the oldest one. And I doubt he'll have to be with her very long. He knows what he's doing. He's a fast learner. And she goes, that's great. Can you stay for supper tonight? And I was like, I'd have to ask my dad. She goes, I'll go call him and ask him. So she walks away. And I'm thinking she's going to get on the phone and tell my dad, hey, I caught your son having sex with my daughter. I'm going to kill him now. You can come get whatever's left of the body. Instead, she gets on the phone and asks my dad if I can stay for supper, and they're going to watch a little bit of TV when it's over. Is my dad okay with that? And my dad's like, oh, yeah, you guys are like a couple of blocks away. Yeah, just send him home whenever you're done. So she hangs up, comes back, and says, all right, your dad said it was okay. Carry on. And she closes the door. And then later, the mom explained that she got involved in making movies when she was 3 years old, and that she had a couple of abortions, and then she decided she wanted to keep her children. And they said, well, if we keep the children, they're going to end up being in movies too. She goes, that's fine.
Wow.
So when each one of her children was 3, then they got involved in child pornography. So she had 3 daughters and a son. The son was about 15 or 16, and he decided he didn't want to do this stuff anymore. And he had pretty much aged out. He was starting to look more mature, and, perverts don't want to see that. They want you to stay looking young. So I graduated from these 3 girls, and then I started starring in my own movies. And they have you come up with a name for yourself. And if you can't come up with them, then they come up with somebody. But I had a best friend in school named Tommy, so I took Tommy's name. And so I was Tommy, and then there were other people that had nicknames, not necessarily a real name. Like we had Tiny, we had Little Bit, we had Mosquito Bites, and then you had girls that had actual names, but none of the names are really theirs. And we would be appearing in movies. People would buy these. Now we made loops. A loop is 7 minutes. Vids. Vid is under 30 minutes. Movies. A movie's an hour and a half. Or compilation. And compilations are taken from scenes from a bunch of different movies. And they're anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. And of course, the longer it runs, the more money you're paying. And nothing is cheap. And then they also sold still photos. So we would have letters written from all over the world telling us how that they loved the dark-skinned boy, Tommy, and they would like to see more of Tommy with a little bit, or Tommy with Tammy, or Tommy with whoever. And these are the sex acts they'd like to see. And so I think this is totally cool. I mean, I don't get rich out of it. I'm not getting any money out of it, but I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want. I can drink alcohol whenever I want. I can smoke a cigarette or a cigar or smoke a bong anytime I want. I can smoke weed anytime I want. I find out that my favorite drugs together are to drop acid and take MDMA or ecstasy. It's called fat candy flipping. And I love this activity. My dad had taught me that anytime you take drugs, any drug you take can kill you. If you smoke marijuana, it can kill you. So then I was scared to try anything. But I did. I took a chance. And I noticed all these drugs, I did everything as long as you didn't take a needle, I did it. But I'm taking all these drugs that my dad said would kill me, and none of them did. I never OD'd. I never got sick. I always got high. It always did to me what it was supposed to do, but it wasn't the danger that my dad said it was.
Right.
So to me, my parents were the fun police. So was God. To me, the Bible was a whole bunch of thou shalt nots. And then I get home and my dad, can I go to a movie? No. Can I go see this movie? No. Can I go see this concert? No. Can I go see this band? No. Can I go see this group at school? No. Can I hang out with these people? No. It didn't matter what I wanted. The answer was always no. But everything I wanted to do over there, the answer was always yes. It was like, why wouldn't I want to hang out over there? And then later in my being 12 years old, this older kid ran up to me one day and he goes, you're in a satanic coven, right? And he started laughing. He took off running. And I laughed it off. But after a couple of weeks, I'd been at a couple of sleepovers, and one night I saw these two people dressed in a black robe, and I asked them what they were doing, and they kind of got up and walked away. And I was thinking, okay, they kind of look like a Satanist from the movies, but I don't know. So I went up to a guy that I trusted. I said, hey, you're going to laugh. I heard this was a satanic coven. Crazy, right? And he said, it is. And my heart sunk into my stomach, and I said, am I a member? No. Would you like to be? So, and I have people that go to my conferences, and they ask me, didn't you know right from wrong? Well, not exactly.
Yeah.
Didn't you know that God was good and Satan was bad? Well, no, because God denies everything I ask for. And my parents say no to everything I want to do. And Satan says yes to everything I want to do. It's like one of the things was, at this time, I'm addicted to pornography. I'm addicted to sex. You got to be 18 years old to buy porn. I'm 12 years old. I love smoking an occasional cigar or cigarette, or sometimes dipping snuff or chewing tobacco. You got to be 19 to buy tobacco products. I'm still 12. And I love to drink some screwdrivers once in a while, or rum and cokes. You got to be 21 to buy alcohol. I'm still 12. And then I have sex sometimes every day, usually on the weekend. It's beautiful girls. There's girls at school that would have never talked to me if I wasn't in the same satanic coven as them. But they're talking to me now, and they're friendly, and I know if I ask any of them, they'll sleep with me. And if I quit this coven, I'm going to lose that. I'm going to lose smoking. I'm going to lose all the porn I can see. I'm going to lose drinking alcohol. All my privileges are going to go away. Why would I give this up? What do I have to do to join? He said, first, there's 13 steps to joining a satanic coven, and you've done almost all of them already. All I had left to do was slice my thumb and bleed onto a document and sign it in 3 places in my own blood. Jesus died for all sin, but not mine. I sign my name to that. Jesus died for everyone, but not me. And I sign my name to that. And on the final page of a 5-page document, I agree to sell my soul to the devil. Do you think that's possible?
I think that's possible.
My wife owns a Honda Odyssey. Can you legally sell me my wife's Honda Odyssey?
No,
Why not?
because it's not mine.
Right. That's the same reason you can't sell your soul. You don't own it. You can't loan it. You can't lease it. You certainly cannot sell it. You may have heard Satan's a liar. I am here to confirm. If Satan tells you good morning, get a second opinion. Jesus paid the ultimate price for your soul. He died for your soul. He resurrected again, and he claimed your soul. When Satan comes to you and says, I now own it, he's lying to you. He wants you to feel despair before you die, because that's a sin, and you'll end up in hell for that. Don't feel the despair. Kick his butt to the curb. Keep repeating the name of Jesus Christ or Mary over and over again until he leaves, because he doesn't like the name of either one. So you cannot sell what you do not own. So if anybody's watching this show and they think, well, I've already sold my soul to the devil, there's nothing I can do, all you have to do is go to confession, because what you've done is given your will to Satan. Go to confession, give your will back to God. Now, you might need a deliverance, or you might need an exorcism. but you're not going to hell because you did not sell your soul.
The say for example, people were doing curses on you, and you go for deliverance, and you've been delivered, but you're aware that these people still have personal items of yours, and they're still continuously working against you. What should you do? What should you be thinking, or should you not be concerned?
Well, when you come out of a state of grace, that's when a demon attaches to you. I tell people there's 3 basic curses that can happen to you. A simple one-shot curse. Now, when people think of curses, they think altar, skull, parchment, quill, candles, incense, all this stuff. Don't think of a curse like that. A curse is basically a witch or Satanist prays to Satan to attach a demon to somebody. So they hire me to do a single shot spell on you. The demon goes to you, sees you're in a state of grace, and goes, oh, okay, whatever, I'm going to leave. So the demon leaves. You're safe. During a tri-curse, the demon will come to you 3 times at their discretion. Whenever they think about it or they have time, they're going to come to you. You're in a state of grace, they leave. They come back. You're still in a state of grace, they leave. They come back. You're still in a state of grace, they leave. The last spell is the strongest spell in a high wizard's arsenal. It's called the hex. And when he does a hex, he participates in an abortion. His job is to get blood on his hands, and then he finishes the hex. The demon goes to you and says, oh, you're in a state of grace? No problem. I'll wait. And he just hangs around with you. Hangs around, because eventually you're going to sin. And when you sin, that stain of sin stains your soul, and demons and angels can read that. And they see that you now have a mortal sin, and now they attach to you. So you're going to need deliverance. But before you get the deliverance, you're going to need to know that you're cursed. Because some people don't know for decades.
Yeah.
And, a good way to tell is to find out if your grandfather or father were involved in the Masons and made it to be a Shriner, a 33rd degree Freemason. Because at that point, they curse everyone in their family from them forward. So their parents are safe. Their grandparents are safe. They're behind them. Their aunts and uncles are safe. They're beside them. And sisters and brothers, they're safe because they're beside you. But all your children from you forward for 4 generations are cursed. And if somebody within that 4 generations also becomes a Shriner, then at the end of that 4 generations, it starts over for another 4 generations. And in those generations, there can be a lot of kids, a lot of grandkids. It's a lot of people. And sometimes they don't notice the curse till they're in the 4th or 6th or 8th generation, and they realize that every firstborn son commits suicide, or every thirdborn daughter gets an abortion, or every couple gets a divorce. So sometimes it takes a while for the curse to manifest. Once it has, though, then you got to get together with a priest and do some deliverance prayers.
Okay, so after you're delivered, if the people that want you cursed are still around and they're actively seeking to curse you or hex you, you basically are competing to not be in mortal sin during those attacks.
I would have, the strongest prayer in the world is the Mass. So I would say you can get, depending on if you're a Novus Order or Trad, there's different places you can get perpetual Masses. I prefer the Canon's Regular St. John Cantius in Chicago, Illinois. It's Trad Masses. And for, I think it's $110, you can list as many people as you want. Up to, a certain amount, but it's a pretty big amount. So list yourself, and all the Satanists that were with you, the witches, whoever you can think of, or if you have to all lump them into a name of a category, like you belong to the Satanic Temple or whatever it was, then write that down, and write it, for their conversion. Because you yourself could say rosaries for them, and that's a powerful prayer. That's the most powerful prayer we have as lay Catholics. But why not, that's a shotgun blast to the face. But a mass is like an atomic bomb being dropped on their head. So why not do that? I mean, it'll be your best line of defense.
Wow.
They don't have a defense against the mass. They don't, their black mass doesn't come close to an actual mass. Remember, Satan cannot invent. He can only mock.
Wow. So perpetual prayers at a perpetual mass is a way for you to perpetually, essentially, help yourself and whoever else and whatever else you're praying for.
Right. And I mean, perpetual masses is 365 masses a year. And I have a niece that currently has about 8,000 masses a year being said for her. So she might go kicking and screaming through the gates of heaven, but I'm planning on getting her there.
Yeah.
She's Catholic pretty much in name.
Yeah.
Like when I took her back to confession, this would have been around 2018. She hadn't been to confession in 8 years. And I talked her into going. And then I got her, she was going every week, and we were going to daily mass.
Well, for people who have been sexually assaulted in the past, or recently, what's going on there? It seems like there's something very intentional on the demonic side going on there.
Yes.
And what should they do?
All right. To clue you in on how demonic it is, Satan has 5 generals. And his generals are Baal, Baphomet, Asmodeus, Leviathan, and Lilith. Each one of these is in charge of something different. However, at some point in history, Satan went to his 5 generals and said, I want you guys to be in charge of porn. There's millions of types of porn. I want all of you to find out what you like the most and push that and do the best you can. Baal came to him and said, I want to be in charge. I want it all for me. I want to run the big show. And Satan told him no, that he wanted it spread out. So the way it's divided, this is an example, but Satan takes January, Asmodeus takes February, Baal takes March, Leviathan takes April, Baal takes May, Lilith takes June, Baal takes July, Baphomet takes August. Then it starts over again with Baal takes September. Basically, Baal has 6 months out of the year, and the other 4 demons have the other 6 months. Now, where this makes a difference is that Baal is in charge of child pornography, all types of kiddie porn, teen sex, kiddie porn that involves snuff films, so the murdering of a child, BDSM children's porn. So the more graphic, the more painful, the more the child is screaming or begging for mercy or not wanting these things to happen to them, the happier Baal gets. That's what he majors in. So when I was in porn as a child, I was under Baal and didn't know it. And then when I became a high wizard, I was placed under Baal. And Baal runs all the types of porn that are horrible. So people being hurt by their stepdad or their real dad or their uncles or their aunts. I mean, women are into this now too. You know, or teachers or Girl Scout leaders or Boy Scout leaders and, you know, like everything. That's a closely contrived, nefarious plan by Baal. Now, on the children's side, the majority of them, I mean, like 99% of them, are completely innocent. Even the ones that aren't innocent were made that way, you know, by somebody that molested them first. You know, like they got them to be nefarious themselves, and then they leave them alone, leave them to their own devices, and see who they seduce. Like, they will seduce adults, and they'll seduce other children. But they're doing so because of what they were taught to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wants them to feel less than human, demoralized, depressed. If they want to commit suicide, go do that. That's his mentality. You know, it's like slap God in the face with the gift he gave you. Just kill yourself and rid the world of your bad behavior. And, you know, I recommend, if you've been a victim of a sexual assault, one of the things that it healed me of a lot of things. I had a friend that used to go to Rachel's Vineyard a lot. She's been probably more than anyone else I know. And all of them helped her. But she finally went to one in Saginaw, Michigan. And it was taught by this woman named Della and her husband. And she came home rejuvenated, like she was a new person. I was like, what has come over you? You're totally different than you've ever been. And she said she went to this Rachel's Vineyard and it healed all of her pain. And I was like, oh, maybe I should try that. You know, I'd never felt the inkling to go to a Rachel's Vineyard.
Yeah.
And I finally did. And when I went, the names of I did 146 assisted abortions and 146 exes. And I had named all 146 in my book, Abortion is a Satanic Sacrifice. And so there I had a person read all the names, because you're supposed to name the babies that you killed. So I named all 146. And I was also able to be healed of my sexual assault when I was 11. All the pornography I went through for 4.5 years. All the porn I was addicted to.
What is Rachel's Vineyard?
Rachel's Vineyard is a retreat that helps women and men that are victims of abortion. But it's not just victims of abortion. It's if you've had a loss of any kind. You know, if your grandfather died and it greatly touched you, you can go there. It's a bunch of lay people that are trained in what to do, but there's also a priest there. And I don't think it's more Catholics than anything else that goes, but there are Protestants that go, and Protestants get a lot of healing out of it. You know, it's prayer. We do mass. You know, I think the priest can do not exorcism, but deliverance. And it takes you, like in hours, I describe what my dad was like. And me and the priest role played me and my dad. And he nailed my dad. I mean, it was perfect. The way he acted, the things he said, it was like he was channeling my dad. And I was just being me. And when it was over, me and the priest shook hands and hugged. But he said, "You were holding that rock." And I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to bash my skull in with that rock. And the rock signifies something when you're doing it. And you're supposed to take all your pain, and eventually at the end, you give your rock to Jesus.
Mm.
So like for me, I opened up the tabernacle and put my rock inside with Jesus. And so you're giving him all your pain, and now it's his, and he'll take care of it. And it's like, it's very cathartic. It's very healing. Anybody that's been a victim of a sexual assault, I recommend they go. I recommend that. I know that the person tells you this is your fault. This was your idea. You wanted to do this. And in your heart, you did not want to do it. This was not your idea. And this is not your fault. You need to tell whoever will listen. If you got to get on a megaphone and broadcast it over a radio station, then do it. If you have to tell everybody in school until somebody listens, then do that. Call 911 and tell them. They'll listen to you. They'll send the cops to your door.
Yeah.
Or go to your counselor and tell them. Go somewhere. Don't be silent. Don't be scared of that person that says, I'll kill your mom if you tell anybody. They're not going to kill your mom. They're scared of your mom. They're scared of you. They're scared of the power you wield. They have tried to take your power. They've tried to take your voice away from you. Don't let them do that. Be stronger than that. Pray to God. Hold Mary's hand. Run charging at the devil with your rosary pulled out. Beat him to death with it.
Thank you for that. I wanted to ask you about the American church. One of the reasons is because I have only lived in America my whole life, and it seems like America is such a big part of this global story. And I guess, like what should the American church be focusing on in your opinion? What do you think that the purpose of the American church is? Because it seems like, for example, the Middle Eastern church, it almost seems like their purpose is martyrdom. What is our purpose and in all of this?
One of the sad things about our church is that when we go to church in Rome and we go to St. Peter's Basilica and we go to Mass, do you know how they choose Americans in the line?
No.
We're the ones in shorts and flip-flops at Mass. Everybody else, all the Europeans, pants, dress shoes, dress shirt, sometimes a tie. Americans, t-shirt, shorts, flip-flops. A lot of the Europeans drop down to their knees, take it on the tongue. Most of us take it in the hand. I got interviewed a few years ago on, do I take it on the tongue or the hand, and why? And I said, I take it on the tongue. And they said, why? I said, because my hands have never been consecrated by the bishop. I can't touch Jesus. I'm not worthy. Now, if you're a deacon or a priest, your hands have been consecrated by the bishop. You can touch the Eucharist. But anybody else doesn't have that authority. And I said, I would be okay with everyone taking it in the hand if everyone took it with the same reverence as the woman in the Bible that knew if she could just touch the hem of his cloak, she could be healed. And she touched it, and she was healed. And if everybody had that reverence, but no one in America does. You've got to go to like a Fraternal Society of St. Peter Church, or St. Pius X, who isn't in union with Rome, but, any port in a storm, I suppose. Or It's the other one, Christ the King. You've got to go to a traditional Latin Mass. Almost no Novus Ordos are reverent. We have two churches here in Wichita. One's in Derby at St. Mary's, and Father Michael is the priest there, and they are extremely reverent. And then where I go to Latin Mass, most of the Masses there are Novus Ordo. And the ones done by Father Matt, who also does the Latin Mass, does a very reverent Novus Ordo Mass. But most Novus Ordo churches I go to are the people go up because their grandfather took the Eucharist, and they're doing it because he did, and it's a tradition, and we do it, but it's just a piece of bread. It's just symbolic. It's like 85% of the world does not believe in the true presence, which means there's only 15% of us. There's 1.4 billion Catholics. So is that like 300 million Catholics or less believe in the true presence?
Yeah.
It's like, why are you taking the Eucharist if you don't believe it's Christ? But the reason, see, this is where it becomes a problem, is that if you don't believe that's Christ, then you're also not going to confession to be in a state of grace when you take it.
Right.
And then it becomes, if you make it to purgatory, you're going to burn extra long because you got the sins of all those times you took it in the hand and you weren't in a state of grace for it.
Right.
I think the focus of our country should be going to confession more, trying to stay in a state of grace more. Stop treating God like he's your best friend and treat him like he's your boss or your dad. Have some respect. Don't eat within an hour of taking the Eucharist. Don't talk when you're at Mass. I'm sitting right in the front. I'm on the front row because I'm handicapped. I'm in a wheelchair. So me and my kids and my wife, we sit on the front row. And Jesus is 15 feet away. And you're going to talk to me now?
Yeah.
You had 7 days to talk to me before now. And when we leave, you'll have another 7 days before we're here again.
Yeah.
But you have to talk to me right now at this instant.
Right.
I think when we decided that as a church we were going to start giving the Eucharist in the hand, and that made us equal with the priest, and now we no longer have to kneel, and we no longer have to take it on the tongue, and the priest is no longer leading us to Christ, he's now facing us, but by facing us, he turns his back to Christ. That was the beginning of the end.
I have a question from my friend Mo. She met you in New Jersey, and
Okay.
she wanted to ask if gargoyles are evil.
I know they look like demons, but I think according to the church, somehow they're like a quote unquote good luck symbol. My friend Father Anthony is the co-rector of the National Shrine of Divine Mercy in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. And their rectory is really old. Like it's on the registered homes of Massachusetts. And it has the wallpapers gargoyles, and they have gargoyles carved into the wood. And so he contacted somebody to see, could he rip this out and take the gargoyles off because they reminded him of demons. And he was told that because it's on the protected registry, that he could be in big trouble if he did that, and he has to leave them there. And he talked to his bishop, and his bishop explained it. And it was something about them makes them Catholic and makes them acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is. You'd have to research it, but I should research it because I get this question on occasion, but I haven't researched it.
Okay. So potentially a good thing.
Potentially a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. Now, before we go, I wanted to ask, what after all of these experiences, what do you find? Actually, two things. When we were talking on the phone, you mentioned somebody that has a son with Down syndrome or something like that, and it stood out to me because people pray to not be in that situation or to be delivered from that situation, and you told me, why would you want to change that? You have someone who doesn't sin in your family,
This
and that.
this woman had called me, and she said, "I've heard you say that all your prayers work, that everything you pray for you get. So I wondered if you would pray that my son no longer has Down syndrome." And I said, "Why would you want to remove an angel from your house? You have somebody that's almost guaranteed to go to heaven, and he's also going to get all of you into heaven. What, you're wanting to take away these God-given gifts? You want to reject this gift from God and make him so that he'll sin as much as you do? And so that he might not be in a state of grace when he dies? And you're going to take his number one chance to get into heaven and take that away and make it so he has an even shot, like you do, of going to heaven or hell?"
Wow.
So I'm not praying for that. I'm praying for you.
Yeah. Wow. It's such a shift in perspective.
I mean, these angels like this are all over the world, and some people know what they have.
Yeah.
You know, some people treat that child like it's an angel, which is almost what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a gift from God. This is going to be very efficacious for your family. This is going to bring all of you closer to God. And whichever one of you dies first, this kid is either going to pray you into heaven, or pray you out of purgatory, or pray you straight to heaven. You know, he wants his family near him, and he knows how he was treated when he was here with you. You know, and how parents could be so selfish. I mean, basically what they're saying is, I don't want the trouble you're going to cause me. I want you to be a normal child. You know, and it's like, don't think of yourself. Think of the child. And think of what that child can do for you spiritually. In having a child with Down syndrome or having a child with autism is a gift. My brother is special needs. He's got cerebral palsy and autism, and he's got all the bells and whistles that come with autism. And one of his gifts is that he cannot tell a lie. It's impossible, I think, for my brother to tell a lie. On top of that, certain things that I would have found greatly tempting, he finds disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't sin. When my dad died, he was waiting for my dad to die. He was waiting for dad to die so that he can convert to being Catholic. Because our dad was Baptist, and he wanted to be Catholic. He believed Catholicism was the one true church. And so Father Cooney asked me, does he know what the Eucharist is? I said, I'll ask him. So I asked my brother, I said, do you know what the Eucharist is? And he was like, no. I said, do you know what a Eucharist is? No. I said, the Eucharist is when Father Cooney brings that cracker out and he puts it on my tongue. That's the Eucharist. Oh, I said, do you know what that is? He said, It's the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ. I said, yes, it is. So I went back to Father Cooney and I told him that. He goes, okay. He says, let me call Deacon Joe. Deacon Joe's in charge of the religious education. And he said that my brother's going to be joining this class. He's going to come into the church at Easter. What do you think about teaching him? And Deacon Joe said, I've had long conversations with him. And he asked me questions that I couldn't answer. And I had to look them up. And it took me like 3 weeks to find the answer. He said, I've asked him questions, and not only does he know the answer, but if I ask him, where is that in the Bible, he'll flip right to it and show you. He said he could teach the class. So I think it's a waste of time to have him in there. Yeah. So just bring him in. He's already been baptized, so just bring him in at Easter. So I was the sponsor, but my brother, he never has to go to confession. Father Cooney said he's not sinning. He can't sin. Said I've had long talks with him. He doesn't have the desire. He's not tempted. He said, I imagine his guardian angels don't let the demons get close to him. Yeah. And he just reads books over and over again and reads comic books sometimes. And he just likes to read. He doesn't play with toys. Even when we were kids, he didn't play with toys. He doesn't do video games. He doesn't do electronics. He just find the most boring book in the bookstore, and that's the one he'll buy. But he doesn't sin.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, one thing I noticed since my conversion to Catholicism and being more aware of these spiritual realities is an increase in challenges, both mentally, emotionally, and materially. And it made me really take a couple steps back, because I became very zealous and very passionate on the topics. But then I feel like I entered into a world that I'm not ready to take on. And I know if I even mention this world to most people that I know, they'll think, well, you're focusing on the wrong things, and most people don't want to think about these realities. And then my own experience with these realities has kind of been harsh. So I guess what I'm asking you is, should we be careful? And is every Christian called to engage in this battle? What am I looking at here? Like, should I just default to some type of normal life and try to stay away from these things?
Well, the devil started attacking you when he found out your mom was pregnant. That's when he started telling her your husband won't love you, your family will kick you out of the house, you're going to have to quit your job or quit school. As he's trying to get her to have an abortion. Now, if you're born, that's half the battle. You made it. But now your attack still continues. And I can tell you from being a victim of bullying when I was growing up, not hitting the bully back doesn't stop him from hitting you.
Yeah.
Everybody's in the battle. If you're alive, you're in the battle. Now, where you may not notice you're in the battle is if you're on Satan's side, he's not attacking you. He's not doing anything to you. Why not? Because you're not going against him. When I was a Satanist, Satan attacked the churches that did him harm. The churches that could stop him from doing something, he wanted to attack them with all his might. And when I was a Satanist, up until 1995, we attacked the Baptist Church. Now, we all along have attacked the Catholic Church, still do. But the Baptist church stopped being attacked in 95 because up until then, they wore floor-length skirts and collars that went up to their throat. Then, around 95, they started showing cleavage and wearing miniskirts. They were against homosexuality, and then they started holding gay marriage ceremonies, ring ceremonies, in their fellowship halls, and sometimes in the church itself. They went from being very anti-abortion to whispering among themselves after church service that their daughter just had an abortion yesterday and she feels fine. None of that guilt or any of that. She didn't have any of that. She's fine today. And then they used to be very anti-Freemason. And now they're all in favor of Freemasonry.
Right.
So the Satanists had watered down their faith so much that they were no longer a threat. Now, can you name any other Protestant church that's attacked by Satan, by organized Satanism?
No.
That's because none exist. The only church that gets attacked is the Catholic Church, and only the ones that take the Eucharist in the hand. So none of the Byzantine get attacked because they take, now I don't know the proper terms for any of this, but they mix the Eucharist with the wine. The Eucharist looks like a crouton from a salad. And they stick a spoon in that, and they dip out the Eucharist with the wine and put it in your mouth.
Yeah.
Satanists will not steal a consecrated host that's stained in any way. So if it's stained with wine, they won't take it. And if you've had it on your tongue and take it out, they can tell that somebody's had it in their tongue, and they won't take that either. But if you go to a church where you take it in the hand, chances are there's Satanists there stealing those, and those sell for on the short end of the stick $1,500.
Wow.
On the large end of the stick, $15,000. The average price being about $5,000. Now, I have to ask, if that's not the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ, why would you pay $15,000 for a piece of bread?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just go up to the Catholic bookstore, buy a box of unconsecrated oaths for like $10 and use those?
Right.
Wouldn't that be just as good? No, because they know when the host has been consecrated.
Right.
Which is odd because most of the satanic cults that do black masses are atheistic. So they don't believe in God. So how is it that they know that this host is consecrated? Because they feel extreme revulsion and sickness and hatred and anger when they touch it. And they do that because God is pure love. And they are not.
Wow. Zachary, thank you so much. I will be calling you in the future.
Okay.
You know, and if you're ever in Arizona, let me know. This is where we're at.
Okay.
You know,
I'm currently on the Cardinal Simone tour.
okay.
And I heard we're going to Arizona, but I don't know when. I don't know where.
I would love to go.
That was the tour that was in New Jersey when I was there.
Right. Yeah. I seen some of the video. Awesome. Can we pray out? Can we
Sure.
Yeah. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl around the world, seeking the ruin of souls.
Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Zachary. God bless you, and I'll be God willing, I'll reach out to you in the future, and if you're in Arizona, I'll make sure to make it out there.
All right. God bless you. Hey, wait, if you see me in Arizona, come up and say hi.
I will. God bless you.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.